Hey, what's going on YouTube? So this is my second time doing this video, but I feel as though I'm going to do a better job this time around. So let's get into it. What I am trying to do and what my goal is trying to figure out what is a good number for the Arizona Cardinals in the upcoming season based on the numbers that already happened. Now, we do not have a schedule yet for the Arizona Cardinals, so these numbers are kind of raw in a sense that they're not 100% the official numbers that we're going to go into the next season with. But before we even get started, we have to talk about the best divisions in the team. So power rankings play a role in that number as well. Usually when teams are facing teams that are kind of even, the number's probably going to be 0, but if it's a better team, then we might have to go negative. So if Arizona Cardinals are facing a team that's 500 or a team that we determine is going to be a little better than them, that number goes down significantly. So before we can even do power rankings, we have to look at the divisions, rivals, the different divisions in the league, and which division is going to be the better division out of all divisions. So if you look at here, I got 1, 2, 3, 4 as far as the divisions go. Now, these are my opinion that these are going to be the best divisions in the league. One with the quarterbacks and the offense in the AFC West, and the defense and the quarterbacks in the NFC or AFC North, should I say. Again, these top 5 defenses, this is definitely going to be top 5 offenses, is definitely something to look at. We can even make an argument that maybe even the AFC North might be the best division as far as competition and strength is concerned, as far as offense, defense, and special teams. Again, these are my opinions. This is how I'm ranking the divisions at the moment. These are just based on teams, not what teams have as far as quarterbacks and everything. And the actual power rankings for teams will come later. And we're working on the power ratings as we speak right now. So, as we see here, the Arizona Cardinals last year, they were 11-6 with Kyle Murray being out week 9, 10, and 11. So those weeks, Kyle Murray was actually hurt and he wasn't playing because of his ankle injury. And again, his ankle injury lingered a little longer than what it says on paper. So since we know that, weeks 9 and 11, they won without Kyle Murray. Week 10, they lost to the Panthers. And that week 10, that Panthers loss was actually a look-ahead game for the next game because they were facing a division rival. I believe it was the Seattle Seahawks they were facing. So that game is right here. Their loss to the Carolina Panthers. And they lost by a total of 24 points, and the total points together with them combined was 44, but that's without Kyle Murray. So now, as we look at all the wins for the Arizona Cardinals, our goal is to find a good number where that we're comfortable with Arizona covering the spread in each win that we're looking at. And the number that I decided was 2.5. 2.5 was a decent number. If we would bet 2.5 against all these games, let's say for instance we would win in FanDuel and change the spread right here, is the only game we would have lost if we would have got all their wins with the 2.5. And trying to figure out why they lost the games they did lose and what we can look for to not take as many losses. So as we look at their losses, they're losing, or when they lost, one loss was because Kyle Murray wasn't playing. Second loss was at the end of the season. I think that was the last game they faced I want to say maybe the Seattle Seahawks or the Cowboys. Don't quote me. I have to look at it. But this was the end of the season. Green Bay, they should have won that game. I remember that one. They had A.J. Green wide open. He threw the ball to him. A.J. Green just didn't turn around and look for it. But that should have been a win, but you have to chalk it up as a loss because it is what it is. The Colts, that was at the end of the season as well. Colts was like 10th in defense, and that was at the lead. That was late in the season, and the other 2 losses came from division rivals. So with that being said, if we avoid, say for instance, the division rival games, also if we avoid games that's happening at the end of the season, we just pretty much have our probability of winning. We just boosted our probability of winning this season a little higher. Also, looking at the totals. So, in my opinion, 45 was a good number to get the Arizona Cardinals. So if we can tease these numbers down for the Cardinals to about 45, that would have been a good number. Now, looking at all the numbers in the red, obviously we're trying to limit our losses. And in order to do that, we have to understand why they only scored 27 points, 36, 36, and 38. The reason why they did that, division rival. That was another division rival. This right here was because of, one second, I got it written down. They faced the Texans. The Texans was one of the weakest teams in the league. And since they were the weakest teams in the league, I think it was more of sportsmanship. They didn't want to blow them out, which they could have. But just keep that as a mental note. So if you have a really good team facing a extremely weak team, I don't expect them to blow them out significantly. Just to be under a certain number would suffice, or not even bet that game. And then the last total that was pretty much under that 45, other than these games here, I'm going to explain these games in a little bit, was the Colts. That was I think that game was at the end of the season as well. I think that was like week 15, 16, or 17. And if we avoid betting at the end of the season with high totals, then we're good. And I think that boils down for most of the good teams that's pretty much in the playoffs. If we avoid betting at the end of the season for the high totals, then we should be okay. But 45 is a good number for the Arizona Cardinals. And since Kyle Murray wasn't playing in this week, this was only 44 points against the Carolina Panthers. So they didn't cover that. And with the quarterback out, that changes the numbers significantly. So we can avoid that game if we're looking further into the season, as well as this 42. I think this 42 was the last game of the season. Let me check a look. Let's see, 42. Bear with me 1 second. That was week 15, and that was against the Detroit Lions. So as we look at this number 42, it was the end of the season against the Detroit Lions. Again, if we avoid betting at the end of the season against the Detroit Lions in that 15, 16, and 17 weeks, then we can maximize our profits and we won't take as many losses with the 45. So just looking at that and understanding it will actually increase our probability of winning, more likely to understand why teams are doing what they're doing. And most importantly to look at is division rivals. Not only division rivals, but also as far as point margins, you have division rivals as well. And teams and facing teams at the end of the season. So with no quarterback with Murray, obviously that hinders the numbers significantly. So we have to take that in consideration as well. But moving forward right now, if I were to do it, I'll definitely go with the 2.5 with this next season as of right now. Now, again, the schedule's not out, so we have to look at it. So if I'm going to go with 2.5, I'm going to avoid, for the most part, division rival games, especially early in the season with the 2.5, or maybe even bet them depending on how I'm feeling that day. But since we have other games, and this is the first game we're going to look at the other games and figure out what good numbers are to bet. We're going to bet with them, and we're going to avoid possibly the division rival or bet the division rivals depending on the information we're getting. So I've definitely liked the 2.5. Going forward, looking at everything we've seen and evaluating the numbers, and I like a 45 for the total in most of the games moving forward, unless they're division rivals or extremely terrible team. Also, just a side note, if we're looking at losses, because we're trying to avoid as many losses as we can, come to find out that the Arizona Cardinals, they lose more at home than they do away. So if you're looking for a loss and trying to avoid a loss and thinking that they can't cover a spread with the negative 2.5, then you might want to look to see if they're playing away or at home. And more losses came at home than away. And that's definitely something to take into consideration. So that's just a mental note. So more wins for away games. And if they're away and they're facing a team, they're pretty much going over the total for the most part. Or if they're at home, possibly going under. So looking at it, as far as wins is concerned, like I said, they have more wins away than they do at home. And we take all that information into consideration going forward into the next season. And that's going to pretty much conclude my video. I might look into a little more information, but as of right now, Arizona Cardinals, we got them at 2.5, and we have a total of 45 and a 45. Should we do 45.5? You know what? I think I might just do the 45.5. Get them at the 45.5. That would have put us over. That one would have increased our wins. And again, by avoiding games at the end of the season and avoiding the game with no Kyle Murray, definitely a pump our probability of hitting these numbers a little more. So that is the Arizona Cardinals for the moment for the next season coming up. And this is the points that we're going to take in consideration. Now, again, this 2.5, if Arizona is facing teams that are kind of in their, let's say, for instance, their bracket or as good as them, that number goes to 0. So this is how I'm doing my sports betting. This is how I'm coming up with my numbers, looking at previous data and seeing who they're facing. And if they're facing a bunch of teams that's going to be over 500 next year, obviously the probability is going to be huge with Arizona doing good again because of the team they have. Yes, I'm definitely going to take that into consideration and evaluate that number. Also, this number goes up a little bit if they're facing teams that's under 500 as well. So it kind of goes both ways. You could give a little extra as far, but we're going to get more into that a little later in the videos, talk about the division rivals, the power rankings, power ratings, and we're going to take it from there. But I appreciate you guys watching. Like, subscribe, share. Also, I'm going to be going over who's the next team. I'm going to be doing this weekly. So I'm going to be going over the Atlanta Falcons. Well, no, actually the Falcons have a big disadvantage now. Also, the Green Bay Packers. Actually, I think I might do Green Bay because Green Bay has a huge disadvantage, and I'm going to show you something that I want to hit on. And I've seen something with Green Bay that's been happening in the league forever. So the Green Bay actually took a huge hit this year, and I'm going to explain that in my next video. But again, like, subscribe, share. Also follow me, and hopefully we can make money this upcoming NFL season. Appreciate you guys watching.